Hello again. Now we're moving on to lesson 5. We're going to work on a 2-point perspective of a cityscape. In the previous lesson on a 1-point, I suggested you try shading the background and putting some details in the foreground. We're going to do that on this particular one step by step, so you can compare it with what you did on your own. So here we go. Again, we have the horizon. In this particular case, notice how instead of at the top or in the middle, I put it toward the bottom. I wanted a little bit different view. As you lower the horizon, it looks like you're looking down into the picture. At least you're at street level and the buildings are taller than you. So we have two streets, one coming from here, one going here. And you notice that they're wider toward the foreground and much narrower as you go further back. Now, we needed to draw a building. So as usual, like we did previously, you can draw a dot where you want the corner of the building to be. Keep in mind, again, and I don't want to re-emphasize this too much, but it is necessary, because in the past I've noticed people find mistakes this way or actually create mistakes. If you put this dot too low and you start your building here, it'll be like in the middle of the intersection, which can't happen. So you make sure that the dot, which is the corner of the building, is above where the streets intersect. And so you draw a line heading toward this vanishing point, another one heading here, and then a vertical line. The next question is, how tall will the building be? How wide or how narrow? You make this up on your own. What I decided to do is I decided to make this side of the building narrower than this side, which is why I draw the two lines this way. Then I use the vanishing point to cut it off for the top. You notice now I have my building, which is basically a box. But you can't have just one. So I'm going to put a building next to it. And here's the corner of the building where that dot. Again, just so you could see where the building lines are, I drew as though I could go through the building here. And you see that's why I dashed the line here. Eventually you'll erase that, but it basically goes from this corner to that vanishing point, from this corner to this. Then I made the vertical line. And here I have a vertical line for the side of the building. I go use this vanishing point for the top here to the top here. From this point, I go all the way through here, like I said, through the building to this spot. So you can see where the lines would originate. When you erase the lines you don't need, you can see one building next to the other. Again, they're like two boxes. I then decide to put a little bit taller building in the background here to make it more interesting for you to look at. And again, I made that narrow this way. This one's narrow here, this one's narrow there. Then I put another building on this side. And you notice here is the dot, and if you were to follow the line, it would start at this vanishing point, just like this would start there. These two go to the same vanishing point. But I have to cut the building off someplace. And sure enough, I cut it about halfway to the vanishing point. And you notice now, it's more interesting. I have 4 boxes, but it kind of looks like the corner of a city block. Then I decided I'm going to put a building on this corner of the street and one on this corner. So I'll have one here, here, here. So these will be the origins of the buildings for these 2 corners. You notice that what I did is I took this vanishing point, drew it through the dot here, so that goes off the picture. I then drew a vertical line, and I used the same vanishing point to create the top of the building. So that puts one on this side. On the opposite side, I decided to put a lower building. So I used this vanishing point from the bottom. Here's the vertical line. Vanishing point, and that, sure enough, I have a building here. This is something you have to use your creative ideas. If all the buildings were the same size, not only would it be boring, you could also not see all the details. So you went to all the trouble to draw this block. Don't block completely all these buildings with the buildings in the foreground. Then I decided to put another building on this corner, but it's behind this building, so all I had to do is a vertical and then use the vanishing point to come across. When you erase the lines you don't need, you notice that you're standing at a street corner, not too high up, looking at the city. I then used, by hand, I drew a silhouette like I did in one-point perspective, of buildings that would be in the background. So these streets would go in a different direction than the streets we're looking at here, which is very common in all cities. All streets don't go the same direction. I think the only exception is Salt Lake City, where it was built on a grid, but other cities meander about. The roads don't go in the same direction. What I did then is I shaded the back in a light gray and a little bit darker for the foreground. The reason you do that is when you look at things that are far away, they tend to be a little bit more faded and light, not as much detail. You notice I didn't draw any windows. I just basically used the pencil in the same direction, made it darker for the ones in front and lighter for the ones in the back. You can do the same. If you want to make all the lines go up and down, that's fine. If you want to go across or you want to hatch them back and forth, you can do that. But make sure that whatever pattern you follow with the lines that you draw, that they're the same. So then I put a little bit more detail on the buildings in the foreground. So you see that they come forward because you see more details. That's the same thing as when you're looking at anything in general. Anything that is close has more details. Anything that's far away tends to be a little fuzzy or minor details you don't see at all. Then I shaded, and you notice like you're looking more into the city now, like it looks like the same city because again, different shades of gray, but it all fits together. We're not done yet though. What I did then is I gave the streets asphalt and I put some signals up. Don't be worried about details. Don't draw every window in every building. It's not necessary. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to count them. If you want to do something that's realistic, just go out with a camera, take a picture of downtown, and you're done. You're an artist, just draw this. I made this up. It's just fun to do. I made it representative. It could be any city in any particular spot, as long as it's toward the downtown area where the taller buildings are. To do the asphalt, you just use the side of a pencil, which I described way on at the beginning. And then what you can also do, use the eraser after you draw that, use the eraser to make the lines for where the crosswalks would be. And then in essence, you have a picture that looks like a cityscape in a downtown area with many tall buildings. It looks interesting. All the buildings are not the same.